Hey everybody, happy Thanksgiving from Talk CDL to your family. Tune in this week and hear a story that we told some time back. It is a repeat episode of a trucker and his family on this Thanksgiving week. We will be returning to our normal recording and broadcasting on December 4th. Thank you and have a blessed day.
Lady wrote in.
Okay.
She's from West Virginia. Mountain Mama. But anyways, she wrote in, and here's what she said. I kind of broke it up a little bit because it was kind of a little bit of a letter here. She says, "Hi, Talk CDL."
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. But anyways, she says, "My name is Annie."
Okay.
She says, "First off, I love your show."
Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. And gosh, I'm having crazy problems here with wires today. She said, "First off, I love your show. Been a long time listener." She said, "You guys rock." She says, "The reason I am writing to you is I wanted to tell you about my husband."
Okay.
Okay. She says, just want to look at the sound check. She said, he trucked for 10 years. He was over the road. He ran 48 states. And trucking, it says, trucking was the love of his life. And then she said, besides God, myself, and our children. So, aside from God, his wife, and his children, trucking was this guy's life.
Oh. I don't like the past tense sounding though.
Let's see what she says. What I was going to say is trucking is a lot of people's lives.
Right. It's in the blood.
Well, and it's funny. We've talked about this before. You have some guys that are trucking, right? Mm-hmm. That truly it is their life. I mean, and they truck. If they were probably making half the money, they'd still truck. Mm-hmm. It's because they want to be out there. That's what they love to do. Mm-hmm. And it's their life. They love the life out there. Yes, they miss their family on the road, but they're also one of those guys and gals that when they come home for home time on day number 2 or 3, what are they saying? I can't wait to get back out there.
Right. It's something that they're used to. They know they can't be a person that has someone overseeing every step of themselves in like an office or something to that effect. So they know they have to have that freedom of being in the truck on the road, but they love their family, but they also know they can't be right next to them all the time.
Well, and if we're being honest, that's one of the reasons I loved trucking was the freedom. I liked the freedom, but I also loved being out there, like just traveling. Just that feeling of travel. And it sounds like this guy, if this was his life, then this is what he loved. He trucked 48 states. He ran over, he was gone for, I don't know I think weeks or months, she's going to say. And then she says, it's been 2 years since he drove America's highways.
Oh.
2 years.
2 years.
Could be many reasons.
Yeah.
She says, the children are now 14, 12, 9, and 5. So apparently she's saying she has 4 kids.
That's a large group.
Yeah. Well, you and I have how many kids? I mean, we have more than they do, But anyway, so she says Matthew's 14. This is current, I guess. Mm-hmm. She says Peyton is 12. Seth is 9. Joy is 5.
I like the names.
And she says, our only girl, Joy. Our bundle of joy. So she says, anyways, he has always been one of those drivers that believed in old school things like helping a driver on the side of the road. I love hearing that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people complain about the newbies, but I'm going to tell you something. We got a lot of guys that are new. In fact, we got a lot of pumped up drivers that are truckers. They just got their CDL. Maybe they're driving 6 months. Maybe they're driving a year. Maybe they're just getting their CDL. And these guys are pumped up to be old school.
It's true.
Yeah, so a lot of you guys out there that are experienced, and you think every guy and gal that's coming into the industry is just what you call a steering wheel holder. I'm going to tell you something right now. There's a lot of newbies out there that are seriously more old school than some of the guys that have experience with him. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, just from the letters we get. How about Ben? Ben's been writing us lately, and you could tell Ben lives in Canada, but he trucks down to America. And this guy is definitely old school. He's got the heart of a trucker. I can tell, just like Sean Dirksen. Mm-hmm. Okay, but anyway, so you've got Matthew. He's 14. Peyton is 12. Seth is 9, and their little bundle of joy. Joy is 5 years old, and it's been 2 years since he's driven, okay? And this guy, just to recap, is a trucker that loves old school, I don't want to say rules, but the ways, you know what I mean? She said he loved to stop when he's seen a fellow driver that's broke down or in need of help, maybe he needs help at a truck stop, whatever the case is. This is the guy that's going to be your buddy because he's coming to the rescue. And he also loves CB radios. He believed everyone should own one that had a big rig, she said.
We all agree on that. That's for sure.
You know what I love about it? I'm already loving this story because if you think about it, she knows the lingo. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I guess a lot of wives do. But like you can hear her, she's saying words like old school. She's quoting her husband. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's awesome. That's an awesome trucker wife, right? Mm-hmm. So she goes on to say, she says, but he would always help the general public also. So it wasn't just about, okay, I see a brother trucker on the side of the road, I'm going to help him. This guy was helping anybody. And she says his heart would never let him not help.
I can understand that.
You think she loves her husband?
I think she does.
She says, I know he sounds like Superman, right? Mm-hmm. That's the question mark. She goes, I know he sounds like Superman, right? Then she says, well, to everyone that's ever known him, he really was Superman. And he would never take money for helping. Never.
He did it from his heart.
Yeah, exactly. He had beliefs, values. Or has. Then she says, one time I remember vividly, our pregnant neighbor's water broke. And ironically, her family only had one car and her husband had taken it to work.
That's a predicament.
Yeah, you know what's next, right? She said, more irony. My husband was getting ready to head back out on the road when she came. How does she word this? So I guess she figured she could run the woman to the hospital and he can go, right? Then she writes, wrong. Our Blazer wouldn't start either. How weird, right? That's what she wrote. She writes, how weird, right?
Yeah.
The woman's car is with her husband, her own husband, mm-hmm. at work, and she's gonna take the pregnant woman to the doctors or the hospital, and ironically, I guess a Chevy Blazer they had wouldn't start. So without hesitation, she writes, without hesitation, Paul, I guess that's his name, Paul is helping her into the bobtail.
Now that's definitely going to that's going to get you dilated.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool though. Think about it. It's like, I guess Paul's her husband, right? Mm-hmm. Paul's helping this pregnant woman into the cab, right? And next thing you know, we are all on our way to the hospital. Paul, me, 4 kids, and a young, screaming, expectant mother. Imagine that picture.
It's a crazy bouncy ride. That's all I could see is the craziness right now.
It is crazy. So then she writes, if there was ever a time that a dispatcher was sure that a driver was telling him the truth, it was that day. Paul had called his dispatcher, Frank, and told him he was going to be late. I'm sure Frank got the picture, as I'm sure he can hear the loud labor pains in the truck. She writes, so anyways, we live on back roads in the mountains of West Virginia. So when he gets off the interstate to get home, he has a very hilly and windy path to get here. Yeah. Well, I mean, remember when I would get off the interstate where we lived in Pennsylvania? You remember those roads? We grew up on those roads, right?
Right.
Those roads were like crazy, sharp, windy, fast. She says the road home is very dangerous and filled with some sharp turns. There's a special curve that everyone seems to fly around, and it's kind of a blind curve when traveling home towards her house. She said it is a right-hand curve, and Papa always said, be careful on the blind curve. So there's a curve on this road. She said, but Paul grew up on these back roads. He even raced with his buddies back in the day and knew them very well. She says one particular time he was coming home for some well-deserved home time. He had been out 4 weeks and couldn't wait to get home to those 4 big smiles waiting for him. Well, 5 big smiles. I almost forgot my own smile. Ha ha. She writes, ha ha.
I was counting in my head. I was saying, okay.
Weren't you smiling, honey? So she writes, as he was creeping down the driveway with what he called the beautiful black Pete, or his beautiful black Pete, he was doing what any other trucker would do for that little gang of waiting kids. He was pulling that air horn and making those smiles even bigger on their faces.
I had a feeling that's what you were going to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's pretty much, you know what I mean? When you're pulling up to your own driveway with your truck and your kids are outside waiting for you to pull up, you know, if he's an over-the-road driver, it's probably been at least a couple of weeks since they've seen him. She writes, wow, I remember that day like it was yesterday. She says, now remember, this was about 2 years ago. She says, so the 2 older boys had to hold Seth back from running into the path of the moving big rig. So you could picture that. You know what I mean? When you got the little one, he's wanting to run out, and you got the 2 going, wait, right here, and they're holding their little brother back. Even though I'm sure Daddy wasn't driving like a rocket down the driveway, but they're still trying to teach the little boy, hey, you don't run out in front of anybody. You wait until they get stopped. It's just good teaching on Big Brother's part. What do you think?
I agree.
She says, and I was holding Joy, who was about 3 at the time. She said, have you ever been to a rock climbing park where there is a bunch of kids trying to scale the walls?
Yes.
She said, that's what it looked like once he was parked and the door was opened up.
The little boy is scaling up.
Yeah, there they are, climbing up to see Daddy. I mean, that's an awesome picture. Think about it. You got 3 young boys, and then you got your girls right beside them, right? You got your wife and your little daughter, and your 3 boys, and they're like climbing up the rail and trying to get in the truck, you know? She said, when Paul would come home, the first thing he did was played with those boys in the truck. So this was every time they would come home, the boys would climb up and they would play. She said they would pull the horn, climb in the bunk, and of course they would get too rough and started wrestling in the bunk. She said that was the signal that it was time to finally get out of the rig and give me my dang kiss and hugs also. Dang, D-A-N-G. I don't want to make fun of West Virginia people. Okay. I mean, we say dang here in Florida, don't we? Hey, that's my dang. Okay, never mind. Anyway, so, all right.
So you can't make fun of them because it's pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, dang is not really in the Northeast. They cuss a lot up there. Okay. So, any statements at all so far in this letter?
I'm definitely curious, and I'm deeply involved in this letter right now.
Okay. Do you remember the kids' names?
You got Matthew, Peyton, Seth, and Joy.
Little Joy. So she writes, that evening, we just relaxed and had some dinner, pork chops, taters, and veggies, which is a typical meal. Which, you know, I got to be honest with you. When I would come off the road from being out there a couple of weeks, even though you can get a hot meal at a diner or whatever, nothing like your wife's cooking. Nothing like, I'll tell you what, there's a couple things that are nothing like yours. Not the number one thing, but one of the number one things when you come home, sitting in your own living room and sitting at your own table and eating your own home cooked meals by your family. Nothing like that. But number one to me, there's nothing like your own bathroom. You're the best dumps you'll ever take are in your own bathroom. I mean, you're just free dumping. You know what I mean? What do you think of that?
Oh, I didn't need to hear that.
So she writes, we settled down that night and all of us just curled up in the living room for a movie. She says, if I recall, it was either, excuse me, she said it was either Shrek or a Pirates movie. I guess she doesn't actually remember the movie. She writes, of course, Paul was sleeping before the first 30 minutes of the movie was up. And you know what was funny? That would definitely be me. I would be home and I'm out. You know what? I will tell you, when you're trucking, you're like a robot. And you get up automatically, you deliver, you sleep, you get up, you roll, and you just keep doing it all week. But there's something in you, at least there was something in me, that once I got in my own house, it was like there was going to be extra sleeping in that first 24-hour period, because it was almost like your body had to catch up on rest when you got back.
So I wouldn't doubt it.
Exactly. So she writes, of course, Paul was sleeping before the first 30 minutes of the movie played. And by the end of the movie, she says, they were all out like a light. So like picture, you know, your husband comes home, they wrestle around, they playing, they're having a great time. You know, it's happy times. And by the end of the movie, you look up and everybody's sleeping but you. And she writes, the next morning, while I was making breakfast, there was more wrestling as the boys snuck into the bedroom to attack Daddy.
Sounds familiar.
Exactly. She writes, while he was sleeping, of course. She says, after breakfast, it was tradition time. What do you think tradition time is?
They probably did something that they always did when he came home, like maybe go for a walk.
Nope,
or
that's not it.
Okay.
You want to guess more?
No, go ahead.
You can if you want. You want to guess?
No.
You don't want to guess? All righty. Well, guess what it was? She says, Daddy and the boys, and of course, little Joy. And then she writes in parentheses, her name is Joy because she's Daddy's little Joy, by the way. She writes, they went outside to clean the truck. That was our tradition. That's pretty cool. What?
Got to get the dirty clothes out.
I think that's cool. Yeah. So she says, oh, yeah, that was a pure sight to see. Imagine this crew trying to clean the inside of the truck while antagonizing each other. She said, once the inside was done, the outside was washed. And of course, they ended up squirting each other and horsing around some more. So it sounds like the
typical. Yeah.
It sounds like Daddy probably antagonized himself a little bit.
I would say Daddy had a little bit of involvement in there.
Yeah, a little bit of rough play. She writes, so that day we went grocery shopping and had dinner at the local burger joint. She said Paul spent the next few days getting the honeydews done, which, of course, I know what that's like, obviously. You know, the things that you need me to get done, which everybody knows what the honeydews are.
Yeah.
Cut the grass if you had to, fix certain things if you had to, blah, 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 blah. She said, we spent whatever little private time together, if you know what I mean. I would later on in a few weeks learn that I was going to have another boy, and you guessed it. I'm sorry, another baby, and you guessed it, another boy.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Interesting. She says, this one was named Paul Jr. after, of course, Paul Sr. She says, anyways, that was the night before Paul was to go back out on the road. And we got in. Oh, here, she says, and we got into an argument.
Uh-oh.
So they get into a fight. And you know what that's like. I mean, it just happens. Married couples, especially young ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
She says, I won't tell you what the argument was about, but know this. I am the most stubborn person I know, and I don't like to apologize, and I never used to admit I was wrong. Sounds exactly like you. I mean, seriously, it does sound like you. You're pretty stubborn. You don't even want to admit that.
I'm not saying a word. I take the fifth.
You drank a fifth. No. So she says, so of course, after supper, I didn't say much to Paul, but know this. She says, I was dead wrong in that argument. In fact, the entire fight was my fault. She says, the next morning when Paul was packed and ready to pull out, he went to give me a hug and a kiss, and I gave him a fast peck on the cheek. She said, you know, the kind of kiss that says, I really don't want you to kiss me. Or, you know, I really don't want to kiss you. She says, and it sounds like she really was stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel bad for anybody that gets into a fight and no matter what, even if they know they're wrong, like she just admitted she said she was dead wrong. The entire fight was her fault.
Yeah, but she hasn't admitted it to him yet.
Right, and that's sad because you know, there they are getting ready to say goodbye. Let me see, where am I at?
She gave him a fast peck on the cheek.
Yeah. Okay. She says, even though I knew I was wrong, I still acted like I was right in my stubborn way. Anyways, Paul gave the kids their hugs, and they were sad because they knew it would be weeks till they see Daddy again. And of course, you know, the kids get sad.
Mm-hmm.
She says, about 2 hours, I want to make sure my thing's playing. She says, about 2 hours into Paul being gone, I started to feel guilty and thought I would call him and schmooze things over.
2 hours too late. He just left.
Exactly. You should have did it last. Well, anyways, she says, that's when I got the worst knock on my door anyone could ever get. State police. Wow. She said, well, they were there to deliver the news that Paul had been killed. Guess I should have read it. How stupid. Well, that's sad. That is sad. What do you think?
I agree. It's the most stupid, or it's the worst news that you can get is having someone come to your door. And
I know.
she probably feels extremely
Bad.
horrible because she did not tell him that she loved him and gave him the hug and kiss before he walked out the door.
Yeah. She said, it was the worst day of my life, one I can't get back. She said, I'm writing in hopes that you will tell mine and Paul's story. Well, we just did. Miss Annie. I'm so sorry. That's horrible. She says, please tell your audience that there is something special about a trucker's relationship with their family. What do you think of that?
It is a special relationship.
Yeah. Terrible. Terrible, 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 terrible letter. Wow. You ever fear that knock on the door?
I have many
That's
times.
Horrible. So she said, we only get to see each other so many times a year. This is the special relationship I guess she's talking about. She said, there should be a rule in every trucking family's house. Papa is not allowed to leave if there's any anger or any unforgiven fights.
I agree.
That's
You should not go out the door no matter what. I mean, that's one of the rules. Even when you and I, if we're angry at each other, we still give each other hugs and kisses, say I love you before you walk out the door, because you don't know.
Hey, what's that scripture say? Don't let the sun go down on your wrath.
Correct.
Wow. She then says, you will never forgive yourself if the last thing you say to each other is something in anger. You will never forgive yourself if the last kiss you have together was one you pulled back on.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that? That's crazy. Crazy letter. And you especially will never forgive yourself if the last time your children looked into their daddy's eyes, they seen him sad because mama was acting mad at him instead of loving him. Ooh. It's a sad letter. What do you think, R?
I think that it's something that everybody should be thinking about.
She says, thank you for the entertainment, and I especially thank you for entertaining Paul. He loved you guys too.
Well, Lord willing, you'll see him again.
Yeah. Till you meet again. I don't even know what to say on a letter like that, Ruthann. That's crazy. That is crazy. What do you think?
I think that when Annie wrote that, she wanted everybody to think about how you treat one another and think how you want your relationship to go and how far you need it to go versus going and regretting that you don't get to see each other again.
All right, drivers, there you have it. You'll need to make sure that you don't leave home in anger ever or sadness or anything like that at all.
Follow Annie's advice.
Yes, please follow Annie's advice and always make sure, because you just don't know if it's the last time you'll see each other. Like she said, it's a special relationship truck drivers have. Drivers, if you're looking for a local, home, everyday driving job, apply with Carter Lumber today. They have positions for Class A and Class B local drivers. They can take experienced drivers, students, and non-CDL drivers. With over 160 locations, chances are they have a position for you. So go to carterlumber.com/talkcdl and apply today. Again, that's carterlumber.com/talkcdl. Thank you. Hey drivers, are you sick of watching the other drivers bypass the way station while you are held up going through yourself? Well, download DriveWise today at www.drivewise.com. That's DRIVEWYZE.com, and start bypassing the scales yourself. If you're a small carrier, an owner-operator, or even a big fleet looking for something better, check out DriveWise today. And remember, there's no equipment, no transponders needed when you're using DriveWise. Check them out for a free download at www.drivewYZE.com. If you're a driver looking for a new trucking job, check out NCI. NCI offers the following: new Kenworth T680s, competitive wages, solo, team, and students welcome, plus a full benefit package for you and your family. Check them out today at 888-311-7076. That's 888-7076. And tell them Talk CDL sent you. Truck Parking Club is a network of instantly reservable daily and monthly truck parking locations throughout the U.S. Truck Parking Club helps connect truckers to truck parking locations throughout the U.S. via truckparkingclub.com. Our networks is made up of property owners that have locations adequate for truck parking to list on the platform. This includes trucking companies, storage companies, CDL schools, trailer leasing companies, real estate investors, truck parking operators, and more. Go to truckparkingclub.com today.